All right, good morning, everyone. I am excited to have Nicole with me today. Nicole and I have been connected for so long on mostly Twitter. It's expanded over the last 6 months, year or so. Worked on a few things when she was at Dribbble, and Nicole has a lot of wealth of knowledge from her time at Dribbble and Yelp and lots of other really well recognized companies in her work with marketing. And so I'm excited to have her on today to really talk about experience and kind of the future of the modern workplace, content marketing, wherever we kind of go down. But I wanted to give her a chance to introduce herself and kind of go through her background and what she's most passionate about and other things. And then I was at Disney with my family last week, and she's going as a part of her vacation next week. So maybe we'll go in on some Disney stuff as well.
Yeah, pray for us. Thank you. I appreciate the kind intro. Yes, I'm Nicole Warshauer, and my background's pretty varied. And I like to say that I play at the fun intersection of marketing, communications, and community. As Joe mentioned, I've built and led remote teams at the likes of Dribbble and quite a long time at Yelp. And I think my kind of strategic point is that I really pride myself in jumping into the community and connecting with the customer right away, as fast as I can. And I have 2 children, as Joe mentioned, with the Disney note, and I'm also a Gemini. I can't handle caffeine, and I love brownies. So
nice. Wow, that was covered the full gamut. I love that.
I'm done. Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
I'm impressed. So we got to drill in on the caffeine thing. I can't handle managing my job and my kids without a little bit of caffeine.
Yeah,
go there.
Funny. Years, and lots of people have heard this story, but years and years ago, I gave up caffeine like for fun, which was, I don't know why. It was probably smart at the time. And ever since then, if I have any caffeine, anytime like after maybe like 11 a.m., I will be up till about 4 a.m. the next day. So it's great if I have like a teeny bit, because then I feel like an absolute superhero. I am extremely efficient. Like put me next to like a campaign or something to pull together, and I'm a mastermind. So if I use it very sparingly, it's really effective. But
awesome.
If my decaf gets swapped with a caffeinated coffee, like I am a shaky like mess.
Awesome.
You don't want that. But,
yeah. I love it. I love to hear that. So we live in a world full of distraction. You've led lots of different content teams and kind of trying to help brands break through the noise. What are some kind of tips and tricks on how you've been able to do that?
I think the first one I'd like to always share with whether it's a team or even on a consulting project is like, tell me about your customer. Do you know your customer? And, what are you trying to solve? What pain point can you alleviate for them? So, everything's a distraction, right? Whether it's social or whether it's your family, your children, a project that you're working on. So if you can distill it down to knowing your customer, knowing their problem and solve it, that's really sticky. That'll give you that longevity to create an experience that matters. For me, the brands that stand out have that clear, consistent message and how they're going to fix those problems for their core, consumer. And I think it's really important also to know that, all customers are users, but not all users are customers, right? It's someone who you know their issues, you know how to solve them, and you want to make that as seamless as possible. So just because it's not a crazy experience doesn't mean it's not a valuable one for your customer.
I love the road that this question takes us down. I feel like it's different with different people, and I like that you went down kind of the customer feedback loop almost, and how important it is to really be connected, and really understand how you should be enabling your customer to use your, if you're using a product, how they can use it better, and that type of thing.
Yeah, really important.
So what is kind of the core or DNA of a good customer experience then? If you're really trying to focus on that loop and making sure you're listening and providing a good experience, what is kind of at the root of that?
The root to me of like a really good experience is kind of framing it out from start to finish. I think there's a lot of brands that do this well, but also a lot that don't. Um, where you have an amazing product, you have a really cool brand, and then you're like, here you go, customer, here's everything for you. But you don't lead them down that experience. You don't show them how to use your product or your service. You don't give examples. You don't give great testimonials. And I'm not just saying that, said brand don't have those pieces somewhere on their site, but that whole loop, that whole cycle has to be seamless. It has to be clear. And so that's where I've spent a lot of time playing with content to make sure that the customer, or the consumer, the user, your target, if you will, feels really welcomed, feels like they're part of a community, and that they know how to best, use those pieces of your product or service, that they feel that they're being heard, that you can anticipate their needs and what they're looking to do or to solve that problem that they have.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. You can have this, like beautiful top of funnel or like awareness stage of the journey that you're really driving business to. But then if they land on your site and if they don't know who you are, if you're a smaller brand and you don't quickly show them or bring them to value, it's basically just a bounce.
You've lost them, right? So quickly. And another piece I think is really valuable to at least consider is the after process. So the after they've purchased it or they've gotten to know you, they've connected or given you their email, because that's currency, right? After they've done that, then what? Sending them just an email of like, hey, thanks for shopping. That's not enough. I'm not saying you need to go bombard them with 96,000 emails each week, but think about that customer in terms of they just spent time or money or knowledge on your site. How can you give them more of that? How can you level them up? So if they went with your initial plan, great, cool, you get X amount per month or week or whatever it is. But how can you bring them through that funnel of making them an ecstatic consumer, not just someone who's like, oh, I got this thing from this place one time and it was fine. You want them to be part of that community. If you've got content pieces, can you deliver those to them? If there's a referral network, can you deliver that? And so making it a process where they feel involved and that their feedback is valid and valued is hypercritical in my eyes.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it really kind of helps you enable your community. That's one thing that I think both Dribbble and Yelp have done, excellent job at doing, is creating this community of, Yelp's currency is free reviews. So like, how did they get, this massive community? And then Dribbble, is on the design side, and how did they kind of build that massive community? Well, I think it's, they've put a focus on things you're talking about.
Yeah. Even to the content piece, to that element as well, is, when I was at Dribbble, kind of figuring out the content side of it, of who we want to highlight and the stories we want to tell. I don't want to hit people over the head with product. Like, that's not what it's there for. It's there to lift them up and stay, true to the mission, and making sure that we are supporting designers in every way and shape we can, whether it's leveling up their skill, or showcasing their talents, or just offering inspiration. And you can take that to Yelp as well. Yeah, as you said, like, reviews are free and everyone uses them. I use them all the time. And that community aspect of, I know Joe and he knows sushi, in Park City. And so like, I'm going to rely on him. But also it's the great way to experience local business. And so that feedback loop, even if you're not reviewing, is so huge to a local business to kind of take their brand recognition and their connection to the community to that next level.
Definitely. If we look at kind of like how content has evolved, one of my favorite things is looking at, like, go back on your Facebook feed if you still have Facebook. And my first post was maybe like 2006 or 2007. Like, I'd recently been married, and it was basically like high school reunion almost. Like, it was reconnecting with friends I hadn't seen in 5 or 10 years. And like, it was very conversational. It was like Joe to X person. Hey, great to see you, that type of thing. And now you look at it and it's visuals and video. And obviously Facebook has doubled down on visuals with Instagram, and brands, are putting all visuals and video. How do you think those can kind of help an experience and really kind of tie you to your brand with where we're at with content?
I think it's, I don't want to say it's the only way to go, but it's the only smart way to go in terms of visuals. You can pull stats from, here to wherever, but like video and visuals are, it gets the best engagement for any type of social post.
For sure.
But like beyond like clicks and recognition and all that stuff, it's just intelligent and smart to do it for your consumer and for your brand. As we were talking about earlier, showing someone how to use something is amazing. And like that should be integral in everything you do, whether it's a campaign or whether it's a product or a service. They're not hanging out with your customers, aren't hanging out with your dev team, like picking out buttons. What may seem intuitive to a product team or to an engineering team or even to a comms team is not necessarily intuitive to, Jane down the street who wants to buy a new lip gloss. So I think it's taking a step back and saying, what type of visuals do I need to lead that customer down that path? And it's not just UI and UX, but it's also after you've done all the work. If you're not seeing that conversion, what's missing here? And maybe it is adding more visuals to lead them down that path so they feel that they're connected, that you're really considering their experience.
Yeah, one of the biggest use cases we've seen at Cloud App is people using our product to record how-to videos. And recently, I had John Knightley for CMO of Blue Jeans on a couple weeks ago, and he talked about how they use Cloud App to kind of record videos, and then that was a part of their product launch. And they used that collateral, and it was like, hey, here's this cool new feature, and here's also how to use it.
Right.
And that's kind of, it goes back to what we first talked about is on the second question, which is, you're instantly enabling people to use that new feature and see the benefit versus just focusing on the PR aspect of it.
Yeah, hope for the best. We did a lot of that at Yelp. I think, on the mobile side, the Yelp app is so powerful and there's so much that you can access, with your fingertips. But it also can get really crowded because you can access so much. And so there would be a lot of kind of sharing on the community side, oh, there's this new feature, new for you. How do I find that? Where is it? And so instead of doing a big blog post about all the things that you can do, sometimes it just takes a little bit of a nudge, hey, did you know that there's this new cool thing? Here's how you access it. Here's how you use it. And here's how I found the amazing Thai place down the street. Or for Dribbble, we did quite a bit of that as well in terms of, sharing fresh new features, because guess what? Most people have lives. They are not waiting for you to release the next feature or the next cool thing.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. It's, on to the next. And so it has to be really, really compelling or really life-changing for them to dig in and spend 5 minutes trying to figure out that feature. And most people will just leave if it's taking them that long. So if you're finding that you're getting that block or that obstacle on the way of someone, exploring something or using a new feature, a new service or product or whatever it is, you can kind of have a stopgap with some visuals and kind of explain that, don't just tell them, show them. You can do it through social or through content. And I think one other element that's interesting to explore is how people use your product, how it wasn't intended. And that can be shared through visuals as well. So I'm not saying to hack something that way, but kind of. And that's a really cool way to explore those new avenues and then share it back with your team or your engineering team or your dev team to say, actually, it was made this way, but the community found this other way to use it, and look at what they're doing. That's incredible. That's a new potential revenue stream for you.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think, it's kind of you nailed it with visual, how they're kind of a part of every piece of the journey. Even blog posts now, kind of the best practice is to have image every, I don't know, paragraph or two.
Yeah,
topic,
you can't get too nutty with the number of images, because then it's just this massive amount of text. Same with email. It's a really delicate balance, right? You don't want to go too far in one direction, but people like to look at things. So it's especially when it's not just a gorgeous stock photo, which listen, I love gorgeous stock photos, but if it's an explanatory piece that looks great and that's designed with like some good intent, like that's pretty powerful.
So I always like to ask, what is a recent experience, outside of work, probably not Amazon because everybody loves Amazon. But what's a recent experience you've had with retail, travel, anything that you can kind of think of top of mind that a company provided for you?
It's kind of a little bit work related, but not really.
Yes.
So I use a third-party email platform called Mixmax.
Okay.
It's great for like templatizing things, sharing with teams. It does email tracking for opens and things like that. It feels a little voyeuristic, but I would never, go that far. But it's been really helpful to set reminders and remind me to follow up with things. And if I'm doing a lot of freelance projects, it's really helpful for me to stay on top of, all of those pieces. And I was experiencing this really odd duplication the other day where anything I was sending, it was doubling the content in my emails, like precisely, which made me look nutty. But it happened a couple times, and I sent a note to their customer success team. I was like, hey, like something funky's going on. I was checking my settings. Everything looked normal. And I've used their product for a couple of years now. As I said, I really like it. And they got back to me within a couple hours and said like, hey, like, send us a screenshot. We want to be able to investigate it for you and take a look. They solved my problem, Joe, within like an hour after that second email. They're like, hey, send us this code, refresh, let's take a look. And it was fixed. It could have been a fluke. But regardless, I had like maybe 6 or 7 test emails it was still erroring before they pushed that fix. So whatever they did or whatever they didn't do made it work. But I guess the critical piece of this is that when they sent me that, like, do these 3 things, visual, like, go here, don't just give me a long stream of like 16 things to find, like, show me where. And they did an actual screen video too, which was like, didn't have to. And it was super nice.
Yeah, so I was on a call with Webflow the other day, and same type of thing. And they're actually a customer of Cloud App. So it's kind of fun to like see them using screenshots and screen recordings to close the ticket. But yeah, I think to your point, like I wrote this in a post for Qualtrics a few weeks ago that I had this experience with Patagonia, and I had to return the shirt because I washed it the first time like you're supposed to, and it kind of like bled a little bit. And so I returned it. But I had a decent experience along the whole path, but it was that customer support where like my wife was like, oh, I wonder if they'll give you like friction to like return the shirt because you washed it and like took the tag off and everything. And I was literally on the call for like 90 seconds. And they're like, okay, the new shirt's on the way. There's a UPS label, put in the old shirt in, send it back.
Yeah.
And it was just like, you're like, wow, if you nail customer support, like your loyalty is just through the roof.
Yeah. I think customer support is like the unsung hero of all tech and like all companies, to be honest. Like a great customer support team with a really good, messaging and ticketing system is magical. That was something that was really important on the Dribbble side when I started, because it wasn't framed out in a way that we could respond to the community. Now you're not going to respond to everybody. But on the social side, there wasn't something that was in place to make sure that we were listening and having that feedback loop. So that was like hypercritical to get that locked in right away. And I said, even with like retail, like there's a couple other companies like Chewy, for example, is unbelievable with customer support, like above and beyond. And that stuff, I know we talk about people aren't loyal very much anymore to brands or companies, but man, like they get it right. They knock it out of the park.
So with your kind of closing the loop on things, I want to actually shift a teeny bit because we didn't go heavy in on remote work, but I think you have a lot of knowledge in that space. So tipping this conversation towards more remote with the last kind of question.
Sure.
What do you think is like the future of the modern workplace? If we look at Cloud App has done a bunch of unique research and shown that like 57% of Gen Z and millennials are working remotely the majority of the time. San Francisco is really expensive, so people are living in different areas. And expanding your hiring pool.
Right.
Where do you kind of see the future workplace heading?
I think the stats don't lie. And for me, I think there's going to be more remote. I think there's going to be more flexibility to work remote. And that can only happen if the tools like Zoom, like Slack, and everything else kind of keep up with the times. And there's so many other tools that we kind of need or have or need to be combined, if you will. With remote, at least my experience, like I can find all the tools I need, but it's like a menu of things that I have to keep open and use, which is nice, but it would be even better if they were kind of bucketed or pulled together. I think remote's only going to rise because people want to enjoy their lives, and commuting, frankly, is just like soul crushing. I did it for a while and I don't want to do it again. So I don't think you're going to find too many people who want to have that type of commute. And so if you want to find the talent, and you do, or especially you're in a city that has, those heavy commute times or those really expensive rents, or kind of commercial property costs, it's just a smart way to go. And I've found the best talent remotely, and I'm a huge proponent. I will sing its praises forever. I will say too, I think in terms of changes for remote, we're going to have to get better remote managers and better remote leadership. I think that's a skill that is really valuable. It's also one that's really hard.
Yep.
Because you're used to, seeing your team, helping them along their way, being that kind of person in the office to walk by and kind of have that quick chat. You can certainly do that remotely, and I personally love it that way, but it requires even more person-to-person management. It requires you getting on a video call instead of just defaulting to the phone. It requires you having those conversations about their career trajectory more often because you're not physically seeing them. It's kind of like that long distance relationship. Like, it's worth it if you put the work in. So I think on the management and leadership side, I think we need to see a lot more growth there and a lot more tools and training before we can really say like any company can be remote, because it probably can't. But the ones that are big enough, I think the leadership side has to catch up a little bit.
I really like that point. Managing a remote team is definitely challenging. But I think it is possible, like you said, and can be very rewarding.
Yeah, definitely can be.
Well, I had that soul crushing traffic in Disneyland. We flew into Burbank, which is no one ever flying to Burbank. Everyone flying to LAX.
Just don't.
Yeah, LAX is the best. Never flying to Burbank or Long Beach. Those are the hidden gems there. But we flew in at 5 p.m. So we had that like 2 hours of traffic to get to Disney, and it was definitely soul crushing from the high of like landing in California. Yeah,
you're all excited, like, yeah, we're here. Like, no, you're not. You're not there at all.
So I experienced that. Thankfully, I don't have it too much here in Utah, but I definitely experienced it there. Yeah. Well, Nicole, you're a legend. Thank you for joining. I hope you have so much fun. And let's definitely do this again soon.
I would love to, Joe. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay.